At some point, we all feel like everything is spinning out of control. Maybe it's the shock of losing a job, the pain of a broken relationship, or simply the relentless pace of everyday life that leaves us feeling stretched too thin. These moments of chaos can feel like they're pulling us under, leaving us confused, powerless, and emotionally drained. But what if I told you that there's a way not just to get through these storms, but to become stronger because of them? Today, we're going to explore the powerful teachings of Seneca, a timeless Stoic philosopher who learned how to stay grounded, even when the world around him was falling apart. His insights go far beyond abstract theory. They're real-world strategies that have guided warriors, leaders, and everyday people toward clarity, peace, and purpose, and they can do the same for you. By the end of this video, you'll walk away with a complete toolkit of Stoic principles designed to help you build unshakable mental resilience and take back control of your emotions in your life. So, stay with me, because we're about to uncover how these ancient lessons can give you calm and confidence in today's unpredictable world. If you find value in this kind of content, the best way to support this channel is by hitting the subscribe button. It's free and helps us bring more of this wisdom to you. And please, don't skip ahead. If you're here, it means you're someone who wants more than just quick tips. You're looking to go deeper. So consider this your invitation into something powerful and transformative. In this video, we're going to explore 6 core Stoic practices that can help you reclaim your peace, sharpen your focus, and transform adversity into strength. Number 1. Focus on one activity at a time. Seneca once said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." That short sentence holds a powerful truth that many of us ignore in today's hyper-connected world. We live in an age where multitasking is glorified. We're told to do more, be everywhere, and never stop. But in this endless chase to stay ahead, we often lose sight of what truly matters, our attention. The Stoics recognized this danger long before smartphones or social media existed. They understood that when our focus is scattered, so is our power. The idea of focusing on one activity at a time is central to Stoic philosophy. It challenges the illusion that doing many things at once makes us productive. In reality, multitasking drains our energy and divides our presence. When we spread our attention too thin, we risk doing everything with less care, less quality, and less meaning. Seneca's wisdom calls us back to a more grounded, intentional way of living. Marcus Aurelius, another great Stoic thinker, reinforced this idea when he said, "Concentrate every minute, like a Roman, like a man, on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness." This isn't about rigid discipline. It's about honoring the task at hand. Whether you're writing an email, cooking a meal, or speaking to someone you care about, being fully present is an act of self-respect, and respect for the moment itself. This kind of focus isn't just about work. It's a way of aligning with your highest values. When you give your full attention to one thing, you're training your mind to resist distraction, to slow down, and to connect more deeply with your purpose. This is what the Stoics meant when they talked about living in accordance with nature, being fully where you are, with intention and clarity. The benefits are not just philosophical, they're psychological too. Studies have shown that multitasking increases stress, reduces memory, and impairs decision-making. By contrast, focusing on one task at a time lowers mental fatigue and improves both performance and well-being. The Stoics didn't have brain scans or research studies, but they knew it through lived experience. Peace comes when the mind is focused. Even Plato believed that singular focus opens the door to higher forms of beauty and truth. When we immerse ourselves in one pursuit, we unlock levels of insight and creativity that are otherwise unreachable. That depth creates a different kind of satisfaction, one that doesn't come from ticking things off a list, but from doing something well. Aristotle also believed that habits shape character, and by consistently focusing our efforts, we build the virtue of temperance, self-control. In a distracted world, choosing to focus becomes a form of rebellion. It's a daily practice of saying no to the noise and yes to what really matters. In this way, focusing on one activity at a time becomes more than a productivity tip. It becomes a form of strength. It's a practice that refines your mind, sharpens your intention, and grounds you in the present moment. And when you start to live this way, you'll notice a shift, not just in your results, but in your peace of mind. So the next time you're tempted to juggle 5 things at once, remember this: to be everywhere is to be nowhere. But to be fully here, fully engaged, and fully alive in this moment, That is the true Stoic path. Number 2. Practice philosophy to control your impulses. Seneca's insight, "All the greatest torments are the result of an undisciplined mind," reveals a deep and uncomfortable truth. Often the biggest battles we face are not outside of us, but within. The emotions that spiral out of control, the urges we regret acting on, the words we wish we could take back, all of these are rooted in a lack of self-mastery. But Stoicism doesn't tell us to suppress these feelings. Instead, it offers a path to understand them, manage them, and rise above them with reason and clarity. We all have impulses, that moment of anger when someone cuts us off, the temptation to respond harshly in a disagreement, the pull to chase instant gratification, even when we know it leads us away from our goals. These moments can feel overwhelming, as if they control us. But Stoic philosophy teaches us that we are not slaves to our emotions. We are their masters, if we choose to be. Epictetus, another powerful voice in the Stoic tradition, said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Freedom in this sense doesn't come from doing whatever we want. It comes from knowing when to pause, to reflect and to respond with wisdom instead of impulse. This is the real strength Stoicism offers, the ability to stay calm, focused, and in control, even when your emotions try to drag you in the opposite direction. But how do we develop this kind of control? It starts with awareness. Every time we feel an emotional surge, whether it's fear, jealousy, anger, or desire, we can pause and observe it. What triggered this feeling? Is it based on fact or assumption? Will acting on it align with my deeper values or betray them? These are the kinds of questions Stoics ask themselves, not to judge their emotions, but to learn from them. This isn't about becoming cold or unfeeling. On the contrary, it's about creating space between emotion and action, space where wisdom can step in. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That reminder, simple but profound, changes everything. Instead of reacting to the world, we begin responding to it, on our terms. Aristotle also believed in the power of balanced emotion. He taught that virtue lies in the golden mean, the space between excess and deficiency. Courage, for example, is not the absence of fear, but the right amount of fear balanced with the right amount of action. The same goes for impulse control. It's not about shutting down our feelings, it's about responding to them with intention. By practicing philosophy regularly, we build the mental muscles necessary to resist destructive urges, and like any muscle, it gets stronger with repetition. Every time we catch ourselves before saying something we'll regret, every time we pause before indulging a harmful habit, we are exercising Stoic strength. We are proving to ourselves that we are not ruled by instinct, we are guided by reason. This kind of inner mastery leads to greater peace and self-respect. When we make decisions based on clarity instead of chaos, we move closer to the life we truly want. We suffer less from regret and more from progress. And over time, these small moments of discipline build into something unshakable. Stoicism invites us to live not by chance, but by choice, to stop reacting impulsively and start living deliberately. The greatest freedom we'll ever experience is the power to choose our response. And every time we practice that, we become a little more resilient, a little more focused, and a lot more aligned with who we want to be. Number 3, stay prepared. Seneca once advised, rehearse them in your mind. Exile, torture, war, shipwreck, all the terms of our human lot should be before our eyes. At first glance, this might sound dark or even pessimistic. Why would anyone deliberately think about worst-case scenarios? But Stoicism teaches us that mental preparation is not about fear, it's about strength. It's not about expecting the worst, but being strong enough to face it if it comes. This Stoic practice is called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It's a deliberate, empowering way of visualizing challenges before they arrive. Not so we can worry more, but so we can worry less. When we mentally rehearse what could go wrong, we lessen its power over us. The surprise is removed, the shock is softened, and in its place, we find resilience. Think of it like training for a race. No one runs their first marathon on race day. They train in the rain, in the cold, through fatigue and discomfort, so that when the real challenge comes, they're ready. The Stoics approached life the same way. They believed that by imagining hardship, we don't become anxious, we become capable. This practice can apply to nearly every aspect of life. Worried about losing your job? Imagine how you'd handle it. Would you update your resume, explore new roles, or start that side project you've been putting off? Thinking about these options in advance reduces panic and replaces it with a plan. Nervous about losing someone close to you? While we can never prepare emotionally for real grief, we can build gratitude for their presence while they're here and develop the emotional depth to carry on when the time comes. This isn't about being negative. It's about becoming mentally agile. Life is unpredictable, and Stoicism doesn't promise us control over the world, but it does promise us control over how we face it. When you prepare your mind, you become less reactive and more composed. You shift from panic to presence, from shock to strategy. Seneca wasn't telling us to live in constant dread. He was inviting us to live in constant readiness, and that readiness doesn't harden us. It softens the blow of reality. When you visualize loss, difficulty, or failure in advance, those moments become manageable. They no longer own you. You meet them with steadiness instead of fear. Modern psychology supports this too. Research shows that mental rehearsal improves performance, reduces anxiety, and builds confidence. Athletes visualize competitions, pilots train in simulators, soldiers prepare through drills. Why should our minds be any different? When we visualize adversity, we train our inner response. And when life delivers a curveball, as it inevitably will, we've already practiced our swing. Preparedness also brings perspective. When you reflect on how bad things could be, it sharpens your appreciation for how good things are. Gratitude grows in contrast. That quiet cup of coffee in the morning, the smile of someone you love, the security of your home. These simple blessings shine brighter when you've considered the possibility of their absence. In Stoicism, preparedness is not just a defensive tactic. It's a mental discipline that strengthens your character. It's a reminder that challenges are not optional, but your response to them is. When you're prepared, you become the kind of person who isn't shaken by difficulty. You become someone who rises to meet it. So don't fear what might go wrong. Face it, imagine it, prepare for it. And in doing so, you'll discover something incredible, that your peace of mind isn't based on a perfect life. It's built on a prepared one. Number 4. Voluntarily embrace hardships. Seneca once said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." This is one of Stoicism's most challenging teachings, and one of its most powerful. The idea of voluntarily embracing discomfort may seem strange in a world that constantly encourages us to seek ease, convenience, and instant satisfaction. But the Stoics believe that strength isn't built in comfort. It's forged in challenge. If we truly want to grow into resilient, wise, and grounded individuals, we must step willingly into discomfort, not just when life forces us to, but by our own choice. This practice isn't about self-punishment, it's about self-preparation. Think of an athlete who trains under tough conditions, who runs in the rain, lifts heavier weights, and pushes past personal limits, not because they enjoy suffering, but because they know what it builds. In the same way, when we choose voluntary hardship, we're building inner fortitude. We're expanding our emotional range, preparing ourselves to handle stress, fear, and uncertainty with calm confidence. Imagine deliberately taking on challenges you usually avoid, choosing a cold shower instead of a warm one, waking up early to train your discipline, fasting to practice control over desire, or giving up comforts for a day to test your mental resilience. These actions may seem small, but they rewire your mindset. They remind you that you're stronger than your cravings, tougher than your excuses, and more capable than your fears allow you to believe. Stoicism teaches that by stepping into hardship, we actually reduce our future suffering. Why? Because when difficulty shows up unexpectedly, as it often does, we're no longer shocked. We've already practiced for it. The stress, the fear, the inconvenience doesn't paralyze us. It becomes manageable, familiar, even welcome, and the benefits go deeper. Voluntary discomfort trains us to detach from the constant craving for ease that weakens so many people. It sharpens our focus and gives us clarity. We stop asking, "How can I make this easier?" and start asking, "How can I become stronger?" That simple shift changes everything. Over time, we begin to appreciate the value of challenges, not as obstacles, but as opportunities. Every difficult situation becomes a test of character. Will you panic or persevere? Complain or conquer? React emotionally or respond with reason. Seneca believed that facing hardship voluntarily builds a kind of mental armor. It doesn't make you emotionless, it makes you emotionally resilient. This is why Marcus Aurelius encouraged himself to meet discomfort, not with resistance, but with acceptance. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That's not just poetic, it's practical. When you treat every hardship as training, life stops being something that happens to you and becomes something you're constantly rising to meet. Voluntary hardship also helps us reset our perspective. When we experience controlled discomfort, the simple things in life become more meaningful. A warm bed feels more comforting. A meal tastes better. A quiet moment becomes a gift. Gratitude is deepened not through luxury, but through contrast. This doesn't mean we need to seek out suffering every day, but it does mean that, from time to time, we should challenge ourselves deliberately. Because in doing so, we discover our real capacity, not the one shaped by comfort, but the one revealed through courage. So take that cold shower. Speak in front of that crowd. Say yes to the thing that scares you. Not because it's easy, but because it's difficult. And in difficulty, you'll find the part of yourself that doesn't back down, that grows, that leads, that endures. That is the Stoic way. Not to avoid hardship, but to embrace it with open eyes and a ready heart. Number 5. Avoid self-victimization. Seneca wisely observed, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." It's a statement that hits hard, because it's true. So many of our struggles are not caused by what actually happens to us, but by the story we tell ourselves about what happened. Our minds can turn minor setbacks into disasters and small mistakes into personal attacks. The danger isn't always out there. It's inside us, in the way we perceive and interpret life. That's why one of the most liberating Stoic lessons is this: don't see yourself as a victim. It's easy to fall into that mindset. When things don't go our way, when we're rejected, overlooked, or challenged, we instinctively search for someone or something to blame. We begin to believe that life is unfair and that we're powerless to change it. But Stoicism offers a different way to think. It teaches us that while we don't control everything that happens, we absolutely control how we respond. And in that response lies our freedom. The Stoics remind us that perception is everything. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." In other words, we can always choose a different lens. We can choose to see obstacles not as evidence that we are cursed, but as opportunities to grow stronger. We can choose to see setbacks not as insults, but as invitations to improve. This doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending everything is fine when it's not. Stoicism is not denial. It's courage. It asks us to look at our reality honestly and ask, what can I learn from this? What can I take responsibility for? How can I grow? That shift from blaming to owning is where real strength begins. Consider a common example. You don't get the job, the promotion, or the opportunity you were hoping for. The easy story is, they overlooked me. I'm not appreciated. Life is unfair. But the Stoic story is different. It sounds like, maybe there's something I can improve. Maybe this wasn't meant for me, but something else is. What action can I take now to move forward? One version traps you in bitterness. The other moves you into clarity and purpose. Avoiding self-victimization doesn't mean you'll never feel hurt, disappointed, or frustrated. You will. You're human. But it does mean you won't be controlled by those feelings. You'll experience them without letting them define your identity. You'll keep your power. This mindset also transforms how we relate to others. When we stop viewing ourselves as perpetual victims, we stop projecting blame onto everyone else. We become more compassionate, more understanding. We recognize that everyone is carrying their own burdens, and that we are all responsible for how we meet life, not for everything that happens in it. The truth is, we always have a choice. We can feed the story that we're powerless and life is against us, or we can choose a narrative of agency and growth. The Stoics chose the latter. And that's why their wisdom still resonates centuries later. They refused to be defined by hardship. Instead, they used it to define themselves. So the next time you feel like life is being unfair, pause. Ask yourself, am I reacting from a place of helplessness, or am I responding from a place of strength? What is this challenge here to teach me? How can I move forward wiser and stronger than before? In choosing not to be a victim, you reclaim control over your life. You write your own story, not one of defeat, but of resilience, wisdom, and courage. Number 6. Spend time in solitude. Seneca's advice to retire into yourself as much as possible highlights something deeply countercultural today: the value of solitude. We live in a world that thrives on noise, urgency, and distraction. We are constantly connected, constantly comparing, constantly moving, and yet beneath the surface, many of us feel more lost and disconnected than ever. The Stoics believed that the way back to clarity isn't found in the crowd, it's found in stillness. And that stillness is cultivated in solitude. But solitude, as the Stoics saw it, isn't about isolation or loneliness. It's about returning to yourself. It's about creating space to hear your own thoughts, evaluate your actions, and reconnect with your values. It's in these quiet moments that we rediscover who we are, without the pressure to perform or impress. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, often reflected in his journal, a private dialogue with himself about virtue, purpose, and self-improvement. He wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That line is more relevant now than ever. In a world that constantly pulls us outward, Stoicism invites us inward. When you practice solitude intentionally, you gain the ability to process your emotions and your experiences without distraction. It's in this space that you can ask the most important questions. Am I living in alignment with my values? Are my actions reflecting who I want to become? What am I running from, and what am I chasing? These are questions we can't answer while scrolling, rushing, or drowning in stimulation, but in silence they become clear. And this clarity has a ripple effect. When you spend time alone reflecting, you return to your relationships and responsibilities more grounded. You're more patient, more focused, and more capable of offering real presence to the people around you. Solitude sharpens your thinking and strengthens your emotional endurance. It prepares you not only to face adversity, but to lead with wisdom. Aristotle believed that self-knowledge is essential for living a virtuous life. He saw solitude as the ground where that knowledge is cultivated. Without time alone, how can we truly understand ourselves? How can we measure our growth, examine our flaws, or celebrate our progress? Even Epictetus emphasized solitude, not as escape, but as a necessary tool for building inner resilience. He encouraged individuals to withdraw within, to evaluate their thoughts and behaviors without the influence of the crowd. He knew that to stand firm in a chaotic world, you have to be anchored internally. That strength isn't built in noise, but in stillness. And here's the irony. The more time you spend in solitude, the more connected you become. Not just to yourself, but to what truly matters. You learn to appreciate silence. You start to value quality over noise, presence over performance, depth over distraction. Solitude is not something to fear, it's something to seek. It's the space where wisdom is born, where direction is found, and where courage is strengthened. It's not about being alone, it's about being whole. So make solitude a habit. Step away from the noise, turn off the screens, find time, even just a few minutes a day, to sit with yourself, without distraction. Reflect, observe, listen. That's where your next breakthrough will come from. Not from the outside world, but from the stillness within you. In solitude, you don't escape life. You return to it with more clarity, purpose, and strength than before. That's what the Stoics knew. That's what they practiced. And that's what we can all begin to reclaim, starting now. Number 7. Detach from the outcome. One of the most empowering yet challenging lessons in Stoicism is the art of detachment, not from people, love, or meaning, but from results. The Stoics taught that while we can control our effort, our intention, and our mindset, the outcome is never fully in our hands. Seneca put it best when he said, "The wise man looks to the purpose of all actions, not their consequences." In other words, focus on what you can do, and let go of what you can't. This idea cuts straight through one of the biggest sources of modern anxiety: our obsession with results. We stress over whether things will go exactly as planned. We tie our self-worth to achievements, outcomes, and how others perceive our success. But the Stoics remind us, none of that is truly up to us. The weather may change, the market may crash, People may misunderstand our intentions. Life, in all its unpredictability, often has other plans. So, what do? We detach. Not by giving up, but by shifting our attention from the outcome to the process. We pour our energy into the things within our control, our thoughts, our actions, our virtues. And when we've done our best, we release the rest. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It's a reminder that freedom begins the moment we stop trying to control what we can't. Instead of obsessing over results, we ask, did I act with courage? Did I speak with honesty? Did I give my full effort? If the answer is yes, then no matter the outcome, we've succeeded. This principle applies in every area of life. In relationships, it means showing up with love and integrity, without demanding others respond exactly how we wish. In work, it means committing to the process, improving your skills and letting promotions or recognition come in their own time. In life, it means walking your path with conviction, even if the destination shifts. Detachment doesn't mean indifference, it means emotional clarity. It means refusing to let external success or failure define your internal state. When you learn to detach, you become less reactive, less desperate for validation, and more grounded in who you are. Modern psychology supports this as well. Research on intrinsic motivation shows that people who focus on mastery and growth, rather than outcomes and rewards, are more fulfilled, more resilient, and ultimately more successful. The Stoics knew this long ago. When you measure success by your effort and integrity, you win every time, regardless of how the world responds. And here's the paradox: when you detach from results, you often achieve more. Why? Because your energy is focused, your emotions are balanced, and you're not weighed down by fear or insecurity. You move forward not with desperation, but with quiet confidence. So ask yourself, what am I clinging to that I can't control? What would it feel like to do my best and let go of the rest? This is the essence of Stoic detachment, not retreat, but release. Not giving up, but giving yourself the peace of mind that comes from knowing you've done what you could. In learning to detach from the outcome, you reclaim your power. You anchor your identity not in what happens, but in how you respond. And that is the kind of strength that nothing, not failure, not rejection, not even loss, can take away. Number 8. Live according to your values. At the heart of Stoicism is one simple but profound idea: live in alignment with your values. Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius didn't just talk about wisdom, courage, or justice, they practiced them. They believed that a meaningful life isn't defined by what you achieve or acquire, but by who you become. And the clearest way to become someone of substance is to act every day in accordance with your core principles. But let's be honest, it's not easy. In a world that constantly pressures us to conform, to chase popularity, to compromise for convenience or approval, sticking to your values takes courage. Yet this is where true strength lies, not in controlling others or accumulating things, but in consistently choosing what's right over what's easy. Epictetus taught that we should ask ourselves in every moment, is this in my power? That question leads us inward. It reminds us that while we may not be able to control the world, we can always control our character, and our character is shaped by the choices we make, especially the ones no one sees. Integrity is built in silence. It's built when you choose honesty over comfort, when you stay kind in the face of anger, when you do the right thing even when it costs you. Living according to your values also brings something that can't be bought: peace of mind. When your actions reflect your beliefs, you feel whole. You don't have to second-guess your decisions or explain them away. You sleep better at night. You walk taller during the day. That inner alignment is where true confidence comes from, not from how others see you, but from knowing that you've stayed true to yourself. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to be the man philosophy tried to make of you. That wasn't about perfection, it was about effort, about striving to live with virtue in every area of life, from personal relationships to public duties. He understood that greatness isn't measured by status or wealth, it's measured by how faithfully you live out your principles. When you know what your values are and you live by them, you become unshakable. Circumstances may change, people may disappoint you, challenges may come unexpectedly. But through it all, you have a compass. You know what matters. You know what to stand for. That kind of clarity is rare. Most people drift through life reacting to whatever comes their way, adapting their morals to fit their moment. But Stoicism teaches us to be different, to stand firm, to lead with values rather than moods, to build a life based not on trends but on timeless truths. So how do you start? Begin by defining your core values. Is it honesty, compassion, discipline, courage? Then ask yourself, are my actions aligned with these values? Where am I compromising and why? These questions aren't always comfortable, but they are powerful, because they call us back to integrity, the foundation of a Stoic life. And remember, this isn't about being perfect, it's about being intentional. Even when you fall short, the goal is to return to your values, to use them as your guiding light. Each day is a new chance to realign. Each moment is an opportunity to choose virtue over impulse. When you live according to your values, you don't just survive, you lead, you inspire, you become the kind of person others trust, respect, and remember. Not because you followed the crowd, but because you followed your conscience. That is the Stoic path, and it's available to you, right now, in every decision you make. As we reach the end of this journey through the timeless wisdom of Seneca and the Stoics, one truth stands out above all. Mental toughness isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. It's forged in the quiet decisions, the difficult moments, and the daily practices that shape who you are when no one is watching. The Stoics didn't promise us an easy life, but they gave us something far more valuable: tools to live with strength, purpose, and peace no matter what life throws our way. We've explored 8 powerful lessons: the importance of focusing on one activity at a time, the strength that comes from controlling our impulses, the clarity born from preparing for adversity, and the inner resilience built through voluntarily embracing hardship. We've looked at the danger of self-victimization, the necessity of solitude, the freedom found in detaching from outcomes, and the deep fulfillment that comes from living according to our values. Each of these principles is more than a concept. They're practices, habits, ways of being that over time transform your mind, your character, and your life. They don't require perfection. They require intention. The decision to show up each day and align your actions with something deeper than emotion, trend, or convenience. Remember, Stoicism isn't about escaping hardship. It's about confronting it with grace. It's not about suppressing emotions, but understanding and guiding them. And it's not about controlling the world. It's about mastering the only thing you truly can: yourself. So, as you go back into your day, ask yourself, which of these lessons speaks most to where I am right now? What small action can I take today to strengthen my character? Because change doesn't happen all at once. It happens moment by moment, choice by choice. And the Stoic path is walked one intentional step at a time. If you found this video meaningful and want to continue exploring how ancient wisdom can help you lead a more centered, courageous, and focused life, be sure to subscribe and check out one of the videos on your screen right now. They'll help you take the next step on this journey of self-mastery. Thank you for spending this time with us. Your curiosity, your presence, and your willingness to grow are what make this community so powerful. Never forget, the path to wisdom isn't easy, but it's always worth it. Keep walking forward with strength, with intention, and with the courage to be your best self.